Yay!
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, thanks for joining.
You're welcome. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, I literally, so I just did a live for like 10 minutes
Okay.
and then I jumped off of it and I thought, okay, I need to talk to Charissa and I need to talk to Charissa on Instagram Live. So I literally, you guys, like I shot her a text and I was like, do you want to go live? And she's like, when? I was like, right now. So I appreciate you coming on here. I jumped on Instagram Live a couple of minutes ago because I wanted to kind of talk about something that I've been processing, and I didn't know if I should maybe just do a post and post it, or maybe just do live and just let it sit there for 24 hours, whatever. Um,
Yeah.
and so the thing that I was processing is this idea, I've been asking people like, how are you doing and things like that. And people will say, I'm doing good. I just feel tired. I feel exhausted and, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I'm always
Yeah.
like, I typically follow up with, what's got you feeling exhausted? What does your day look like? How busy are you, et cetera, et cetera. And like 8 out of 10 times, it's not that people are busy. It's just the time, right? And so like
Yeah.
one of the things that I was talking about is sometimes, you get to the end of the day and it's evening time and you all of a sudden just feel this pressure, this like all the things come upon you, like all of your
Yeah.
emotions sit on you, because you throughout the day, even though maybe you were feeling it and maybe you tapped into it here and there wasn't necessarily a time that you gave to fully process out those thoughts and those feelings. And so, I was telling people to, in this time, we have to acknowledge the time that we're in versus what I think is happening. And I want you to kind of speak to is we're actually running around or, running in place, if you will, trying to either regain or hang on to a sense of normalcy of what was
Yeah.
normal. And we're
Hmm.
we're kind of spinning our wheels, and I feel like that's contributing to that exhaustion. And
Hmm.
for folks that are now working at home, and I'm not even talking about even the parents that are working at home that are now finding themselves being uh what's it called?
Teacher and
Yeah,
parent.
yeah, teacher and parent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but
Yeah.
just working from home, you're still trying to output, all the output that you would have if you were working in the office, but times are different, right? And you're having to
Hmm.
consider a whole different kind of environment right now. And I think if we don't get to a place where we are acknowledging, I don't want to call it the new normal or anything like that, but when we need to get to a place where we acknowledge where we are right
Hmm.
now and give ourselves permission to live in the now and be present in the now and sit in
Yeah.
the now and even acknowledge and be aware of our need to mourn the loss of
Yeah.
normal, right?
Yeah.
Because I think we've not, no one's teaching that. Not a lot of people are teaching that right now of, okay,
Hmm.
there's a loss, America or world. You are feeling a loss right now, but
Yep.
we're not necessarily dealing with that loss
Yeah.
in ways that are going to be productive to be able to deal with the current reality, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So I was
Hmm.
wondering if you can kind of speak to some of that and what are some ways that we can really just like take it in and process it and feel and release. Like what are some things that maybe you can share about that?
Okay. So first off, your process is allowed to look different than everybody else's. So there's this thread going around on the internet right now where it's one of two veins. It's be super productive, get all your stuff done, launch a new business, find a new hobby, homeschool your kids, eat organic, go zero waste. I mean, it's like ridiculous, right? Like that's a total thread. But if you use this time to launch something new or dive into a new hobby, great. But that can be a choice that can come from desire, not from pressure. So the first thing is your process can look different than everybody else's. I just talked to a client this morning who sat on the couch all day yesterday watching Netflix, and is beating herself up for having that be her process because it's not supposed to be that way. So if you're someone who's hearing voices of, it's not supposed to be like this, or I'm not supposed to blah, 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 or I should blah, 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 check that voice. Where is that voice coming from? Is it your conscience? Is it the Holy Spirit? Is it your mom's voice in your head? Who's telling you how you should process? So that's the first thing. It doesn't have to look like everybody else's. Your process can be your own. The second thing that you touched on is this whole pandemic is triggering a loss of control for everyone. We are losing control of what we think we have control over, right? Which if you've ever tried to grip, water, it's impossible. And so everybody's learning right now. We're all learning and we're all evolving and we're all shifting into this new normal where we're realizing really how little we have control over. So you don't have control over your job. You don't really have control over your money. You don't really have control over your kids. Any of y'all who have toddlers or teenagers, I feel for you because you realize really how much you can control. So what we're learning is what we need in order to feel safe, what we need in order to feel stable. And so for a lot of us who are feeling exhausted, like you said, or feeling uncomfortable or feeling triggered, whatever that looks like for you, I would bet a strong, strong bet that you are experiencing a lack of control and it's making you uncomfortable. That can come out like frustration, exhaustion, anxiety, pressure, overwhelm, sadness, anger, yelling at people. I mean, it can come out as a lot of things. But my question as a coach is always first, what's underneath that initial emotion? So if you're having a conversation with someone like, oh, I'm just so exhausted, my first thing is get underneath that. So if you've won the right to speak into someone's life, and you have this kind of relationship with them, ask what's underneath that. Wow, so you're feeling exhausted. What's the feeling underneath that? Maybe they're actually feeling inadequate. Maybe they're feeling unsupported. Maybe they're feeling really heartbroken. Maybe they're feeling worry or panic or stress. So getting to the root emotion is really important. And then the next question that I always ask is, what do you need right now? So when we have outbursts, whatever an outburst looks like, that's always a symptom of an unmet need. Always. I don't care what it is. I don't care what the outburst looks like. It's always a symptom of an unmet need. So if you can get yourself or coach yourself through what am I actually feeling, what do I actually need right now? Maybe if you just got outside and got a walk, keep your social distancing, but if you got a walk and got some sunshine, that would actually build a sense of routine, which would build a sense of security. It'd help you feel more safe or happy or stable or joyful or content or whatever the feeling that you're needing. Those two things are important. So check in with how you're feeling. What are you actually feeling? What's underneath it? What do you need right now? And then third piece, when you're in community with each other, like we all are, especially on social, or if you're in your small group or in your church community or girlfriends or whatever that looks like for you, really, really, really try hard to not judge or assume. So here's a practical way to do this. I know that's a little bit ambiguous, but if somebody says, I'm feeling exhausted, since you used that example, guess at why they're feeling exhausted and let them correct you. So if you said, oh, Charissa, I'm just feeling super exhausted, be like, yeah, are you exhausted because you have so much on your plate right now? I'm totally guessing. And I give you the right and the chance to say, no, I'm not exhausted because I have so much on my plate. I'm exhausted because I have nothing to do, right? So I give you the chance to be open and vulnerable and honest and authentic with me about what's actually going on. And then I have the space to ask, wow, so you don't have a lot going on. What do you need right now? And you can start that conversation into, wow, okay, what is it that I'm feeling? What is it that I actually need? And how do I take really, really good care of myself? Because if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else.
Yeah, so good. What are some thoughts that you have maybe surrounding kind of mourning and just this, it's a weird thing to say, mourning the loss of time or mourning the loss of connection and things like that, because when you think about mourning, you're thinking about, there's a person that has passed away and you're burying them and, things like that. But, is it possible to have a need or a sense of loss and mourning of a season, a time, a routine, et cetera, et cetera? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, it's completely normal. So if you're feeling a sense of mourning or a sense of grief, which is really what's underneath mourning a lot, two things that I'll speak to. One, grief is at the opposite end of the pendulum swing from willpower. Okay, so your drive to get up and go, grief smashes that. If you ever lost anybody important to you, you feel like your world has stopped, and it is horrible that everyone else's world is still going and turning, and you're like, what the heck? Yeah. Why is the world continuing to evolve and shift, and why are you still going to work and my life is crumbling, right? That's what it feels like. And that's because grief shuts down your ability to do, just like shame shuts down your ability to create. Okay, but we're talking about grief. So grief will get you couch locked. Grief will get you sitting on the couch or sitting in bed or laying under the covers and ruminating. And I don't want you to shame yourself for that. That is a normal part of the process. So if you're meeting that need of, I just need to sit, I need to think about what my life used to be like, and I need to go over it. If that's giving you the sense of stability or peace or honoring of your emotions that you actually need, that's not a bad thing, okay? When it starts to become a pattern and a habit, and grief starts to not be processed, or you ignore it, or you meet it with shame, like, oh, I shouldn't be sitting in bed all day, that's when it starts to get murky. That's when you call a coach, you call a therapist, you call a pastor, you have somebody partner with you to work through it, because that can very quickly become a situation where you're unhealthily processing. But for the most part, don't shame yourself for not getting up and doing stuff. Don't shame yourself for having grief or for mourning the way that life used to be, because that's normal, right? You lost how life used to be, and it wasn't your choice, and it happened to you. And instead of remaining in a victim mindset, process. So think about what you need. If that's you and you're struggling, think about, do you need to journal? Do you need to have a burial? Do you need to, symbolically let go of what used to be? And it can, like I said, your process can look different. It looks different for everyone, but I think a sense of mourning is totally normal right now. And, if grief is something that you're struggling with, we have a lot of resources to be able to help. But I think first and foremost, you have to be able to just honor what's showing up. So again, are you feeling grief? Are you feeling mourning? Are you feeling sad? Are you feeling distraught? What do you need right now? Do you need to process? Is that helping you? What would that do for you? If it's not helping you to sit and process and ruminate about what used to be, what would help? Maybe it's getting out. Maybe it's calling a friend. Maybe it's calling a coach. Maybe it's cleaning your house. Another thing to watch the opposite end of this is overfunctioning. So for some of my clients who are incredibly afraid to feel grief, which is a normal thing as well, if you're afraid to feel it, because for some of us that aren't used to processing big emotions, we don't know when it's going to stop. We don't know when it's going to end. We feel like, oh, if I scratch it, how far is that toilet bowl going to go? Like, how far am I going to get down the spiral, right? And so for those of you who are listening who are maybe a little bit afraid to feel grief, set a timer. Let yourself feel whatever you need to feel for 15 minutes. Get it out, wail, kick, scream, let the people in your house know you're fine, you're just having a moment. Go drive, go to the park, whatever it looks like. Give yourself 15 minutes and then feel how different you feel after the 15 minutes. And that'll kind of help you not ruminate in it all day. It'll help you have sort of a safety that if you are feeling like, I don't know when this is going to end, or I don't know how much of a spiral it's going to be, you have a time limit. So it gives you a chance to feel with a little bit of a safety check out of it. Yeah.
That's so good. All of that is so good. And I'm glad that I'm going to be able to save this and take my notes later. Cause
yeah.
So one of the last things that I'll ask you about, and the last things that I talked about in my last live, was the fact that I'm in my bedroom, and our master bedroom is pretty cool, and we're fortunate enough that our master faces downtown St. Petersburg. And in fact, cool. I think I can change. So this is...
look at that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so that's downtown St. Pete.
You guys have clouds today, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a cool little bird that's been doing this for like the last hour. But one of the things that I was doing earlier today was I was looking out at the city of mine, because I keep getting this question about, like, you know, how do I feel like the city's going to recover and things like that. And for
Yeah.
us, you know, our city DNA is that we're all, the way that St. Pete works as far as culturally is that we all contribute to the culture of the city.
Yep.
And it's just a really vibey place. And, you know, when you look out, as I am right now, when I look out at the city, I spent some time this morning thinking about the things that I love about the city.
Uh-huh.
So I've spent the last couple of weeks thinking about all the things that may not come back, you know, once all of this is over. And so I've been processing that and whatever. And so today I thought, you know what, no, I'm going to look at downtown and I'm going to think about like the cool spots that I love going to. And I'm just going to spend some time thinking about the owners that I know and hoping that they're really good. And I kind of jotted down some names that I know. You know what, I'm just going to reach out to them, you know, and just let them know that I'm thinking about them. I thought about some parks that I know exist out there that I've yet to go to, you know, and just all of those things. And what I realized I was doing, and I didn't schedule it, it just happened to kind of come out of me. What I realized that I was doing was I was mentally creating a positive ending to this. I was trying to, I don't know what word to use. I don't want to say channel, but kind of like create this is, I'm hoping for this now versus, you know, I kind of moved through the loss of some things. So now I'm going to really spend time focusing on what's now to come. Does that make sense? And so I'm just wondering if you can talk just a little bit about creating or thinking about realities that, you know, because our perspective, our realities can be shaped or are often shaped by how we view things, right? And all that information. So maybe just talk about how we can have a positive twist whenever we feel like we're ready to get there, how we can have a positive twist to the dark times that we're going through right now.
Yeah, I love the way that you set that up. So, what does my heart want you to know? If you haven't taken time to grieve, do that. Because if you bypass that and then you move into a space of dreaming, you will find that you stunt yourself. You will only dream about things that seem possible right now. And for a lot of us who haven't processed, not a lot seems possible, right? You're in the spiral of all my favorite stuff is closed. I can't see my people. I'm stuck inside. My kids driving me nuts, whatever. So if you haven't taken the time to process, that's first. But once you're at a space to be able to celebrate and to be able to move forward, the first thing that I would do is gratitude. Don't dream before you've given gratitude. And that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but it'll actually neurally program your brain. It'll rewire your brain to see possibility, which is important when you're going into dreaming. So why is Corona perfect? What about this is perfect? What did it give to you? What do you have now that you wouldn't have been able to have before this? Okay. So this is going to stretch your brain. And especially if you're in a space of like, you know, oh my God, my life sucks. This is going to be a little hard, and that's okay. So I want you to think about, what are you celebrating? Do you get to have more time with your kids or your spouse? Do you get to work from home? Do you get to see how engaged your neighbors are? Do you get to see how much your community is rising up and showing up? What do you get to have access to now that you didn't have before all of this unfolded? Okay, and that can be for anything. It could be for Corona, it could be for divorce, it could be for moving across the country, whatever.
Right.
So that's the first thing, celebrate and gratitude. Why is this perfect? Second thing is vision-based. So who do you want to be when the world resets? Who do you want to be when the stay-at-home order is lifted? Who do you want to be when you are free to move about the country, right? Who do you want to be? What do you want your life to look like? So I do this in a couple different ways. I talk about the things I want to do, the people I want to be surrounded by, and how I want to feel, because those are three really simple anchors for me. I work all my clients through this, so we're just going to use those three since I can't talk to everybody. So who do you want to be? So I want to be an infinite, confident, playful matriarch. That is my personal vision statement. If you don't have one, make one, because it's awesome. So living that vision of a confident, infinite, playful matriarch, what does that look like in my life post-corona? It looks like taking my kids to the park without an agenda. It looks like going to get ice cream with my husband. It looks like fill in the blank, right? What does that look like? Who do you want to be? What do you want to do? What are the activities that you want to do? If you're still struggling with grief, don't name names. Don't say, I want to go to my favorite chimichanga place on Friday night, because that'll trigger your brain to be like, well, what if it's not there? And what if my waitress isn't there? And you don't want to do that. So try to stay away from specifics if you can. I want to go get chimichangas. I want regular date nights. I want intentional time, those kind of things. And then who do you want to be surrounded by? So we are all in a space right now of feeling a little alone because social distancing is a thing. So who do you want to be surrounded by? Who do you want to connect with? Who do you want to say hi to? Who do you want to hug? Who do you want to shake hands with? Who do you want to high five? Make a list of those people. And then when this is completed, when this perfect virus that gave everyone a chance to reset is over, you can go through that list and schedule those activities with those people and show up as the person that you want to be. So go have ice cream with your husband or wife or your best friend or your sister. Go for chimichangas with your kids, right? Do whatever you want to do and show up as the person you want to be, because you've taken the time to process and you've taken the time to heal with this incredible opportunity that we were all gifted. Now, don't get me wrong, Corona is sad and it is devastating and people are sick and dying, and I'm not bypassing any of that. It is a horrible thing. And shout out to all the people on the front lines, essential people, healthcare people who are literally sacrificing sometimes their lives to keep everybody else safe. This is a huge deal. But for those of us who are safe and healthy and home, I would challenge you to pivot this perspective from something that happened to you to something that happened for you, because that shift will change your whole outlook.
I love that. So good. So I have a 1 o'clock meeting, which is in 5 minutes. So
you gotta go.
Yeah, I gotta go. But before I do, if you guys are not following Charissa, make sure that you do so, because she's always kind of spitting these rhymes over on her Instagram. But Charissa, I was wondering if maybe you could take just a few short moments to kind of talk about the call that's coming up on Saturday, because I think that's a really great idea thing that you're putting on. So maybe you can just talk about that and invite some people to join you.
Yeah, I would love that. So I'm teaching at 9 o'clock Pacific on Saturday morning, this Saturday, April 11th. I'm teaching in a 1-hour workshop on releasing anxiety. We're going to go over what anxiety looks like, what it sounds like for you, how it shows up in your life, how it shows up in your relationships, how it's showing up right now. We're actually going to go through like a 7-step process to help you notice, release, and transmute or change anxiety for yourself. It's $15. I normally don't do 1-hour workshops, but there's such a need right now and so many people that are feeling anxious and stressed and overwhelmed that I would love if you guys want to come. Just send me a DM and I'll get you the link. I originally had launched this as a private event, but so many people are loving it that I just decided I would share it. So if you're interested, it's 9 o'clock Pacific time, Saturday morning, April 11th. It's $15. We're going to spend an hour together on Zoom, and I'm super excited.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for this.
Thanks for the invite.
I love you, and I'm just
love you too.
I'm thankful for your voice in my life.
I share that. I feel so seen and heard when we get to chat, and I love that. You're awesome. Thanks for the invite.
Of course. All right. Bye, you guys.